Careful what you say or you'll get together.
Yo.
I'm so, yo ho. That was perfect timing. Hey, Melissa. Wow. I just barely made it. And I appreciate you guys. Hey, John. So before I even start, I have to thank Dave and Kenny. Had some things going on I needed to take care of. JD, nice to see you, buddy. Family wise, nothing horrible, but just things, you need to take care of. And they were very accommodating with me, and I appreciate it. And that's one of the reasons I think we work so well together. We typically do always family take care first and all that good stuff. But I made it. I was even prepared. I took a laptop, which was terrible laptop, but fascinating internet. So it was going to be fun to see which would blow up first. Probably the laptop. But I was able to get home. So I'm here. I appreciate it. We hey, Donna, nice to see you, Miss Devon. So yeah, we kind of came up with a nice, easy topic that we could kind of wing. Not a whole lot of research due to some things I had to take care of, and so we came up with Kenny came up with a good idea of just talking about who we've run into through our treks that we would consider mentors or people that we looked up to that kind of helped us. Hey now. Hey. I need to get some sexy sound in my pod track for that.
Barry White.
Yeah, I've moved this. I have this. But
if they're calling us sexy, that's very fitting.
Fuck, I don't even know where I was at. Oh, anyway, so yeah, we were just thinking we'll just talk about people that kind of, at least for me, my perspective was thinking back to when I was a full-fledged, card carrying. I want to find my photo vest with all the pockets. I think we all had that.
Yeah, it's still over there on the floor.
I guarantee mine won't fit, but it would still be funny to see me try to fit into it. I still have it somewhere. But yeah, from that time in my life all the way through to where I am now, just to talk about people we've kind of, that shaped how we are and the
that just stopped Tim dead in his tracks.
That's much better. It's just much better.
He
lost his train of thought.
I do.
It's gonna be a good show tonight.
I have been drinking. It's just nice to be home. I've not been home for a while. It's nice to be home. Hey, Bob. What we discovered who made Tim, Dave, and Kenny. Well, I considered putting who on my list, but I'm not going to. Although I think probably many people know, but only because, as a matter of fact, even though I don't consider this person someone that was influential in development, but they certainly put me through a small phase in my life that I was like, and I'm not doing that shit again. Yeah. Some lessons are learned because you just have to go through them to learn them. And that was one. But anyway, so those are my thoughts. I think I'll have some fun talking about my stages of thinking and who kind of stepped into my life through going from a full-on believer into where I am now. Not saying that I'm correct now. I still have a lot of growing to go. I'm sure that I will see more books and read more papers that Dave will eventually send me, and I'll go, this is freaking cool as hell, and go down a rabbit hole. And I'm sure I will change where I am now to something different at some point. So at least where I am now, this is where it got me. So I hope that all makes sense. I hope I wasn't too rambling. I'm happy to be home. I've been drinking since I've been home. and I'm in a good mood. So I will hand it off to Dave.
All right, thanks, Tim. Yeah, this should be fun. A lot of people say they had mentors, especially when they were coming up in the paranormal. But to point out specific people, I mean, as far as those in either parapsychology or the paranormal, there's one or two that I would consider mentors, but then there's a longer list of people I'd probably consider influencers or a positive influence on the way I came up and learned and grew in the field. So I didn't really work that carefully with people. I mean, I wasn't part of the Troy Taylor Club. I think I joined for a while for that, but I didn't really follow, and I didn't really go to events and follow along and do that type of stuff. But I think it's a combination of one or two individuals within the field, some of the college professors I had, and then people like you guys, Tim, Kenny, definitely being an influence on how we critically analyze things. Then, of course, when I joined Jen's group back in the day, you could say as far as what to do if you're going to have a paranormal group, she was kind of a mentor because she had, been really good at running paranormal groups when we had a big one. So it's a whole list of different people. I'd even throw in there a bunch of my college professors, and then even going further back to my dad, who he didn't really mentor or influence, but he kind of encourage it. It's like, well, if you're interested in it, we'll go see the movies, we'll read the books, I'll buy the books or do whatever you want to do if you're interested in it. So I think for me, it's going to be a combination of, mentors, but a lot of people that just influenced me in one direction or another. And then we certainly can say there's at least one individual that mentored us together. And there can be, maybe we can think of mentors as your negative mentor. You learn exactly what to not do throughout the field and investigations. So maybe an anti-mentor. Not sure if that's the right term, but we'll go with it.
Very common.
So we might bring that up.
I was thinking Bizarro World mentor.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Opposite mentor day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's it for my rambling. Kenny?
Yeah. Thinking about this topic, it's nice. I like to give props to people that have influenced us and guided us along the way. And I mean, one of the things that I really believe is that we are not solely responsible for who we are, because it's not like we develop alone on a deserted island out in the middle of the ocean where we have no influence. We grow up, we have family. I mean, our first influencers are family. They tell us what to believe, what to think, how to think. And then we grow up and we start deciding what we want to follow, what we like, what we don't like. And there's been a few people that have really made a huge impact on me in the last couple decades or last couple years. And I think, as you guys both touched on, there's a lot of people, there's a bigger list of people that have helped me grow along the way, that maybe like weren't there for several years, but they were there for a couple days or once in a while, and we have a conversation and it really stands out to me. So I mean, this is, we can't put this in one show, and I can't stress that enough. It just won't fit in an hour or 2 hour show because there's just so many people, and the more you talk about it, the more you think, oh, son of a bitch, like that guy or that lady, she helped me out, you know, for 5 minutes. It's amazing sometimes when you go back and think about moments in your life and you think like, oh, I've been with this company for like 20 years and I learned a few things, but you could spend 30 seconds with one person and they can completely change your life, with just one statement. And it's just amazing. So I love that kind of stuff. And so tonight is just more or less the beginning of just giving props to those people that have helped us along the way. So there you go. That's me.
All right. Well, I'll start. I have an odd one, I guess, to start with. I don't even know who these people are. I probably did at one time, but these two will probably go together, but I've mentioned this unnamed girl, female, that was at a place when I was setting up equipment for, doing your typical stuff, unrolling all the cable, looking all badass and all that good shit, and hooking up your cameras and making sure the tripods aren't going to fall over, and someone's in the control room checking your angle. It was just great. All that shit was fun. And so she was there and she was leaving, but she was like, "What are you guys doing?" I was like, "We're going to find a ghost." Yeah, paraphrase it. And she goes, "What are you going to do with that?" And I was like, "Oh, we're going to look for a ghost. It's a camera." And she was like, "How do you know it's going to be a ghost?" I was like, "Well, you'll see it."
You'll see it.
Yeah, fuck. I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, God damn, that's a good question.
Stop asking the tough questions, lady.
It was
Jesus.
a good question. I was like, yeah. I was like looking at the camera, going, yeah,
That's great.
So then all of a sudden, I was like, oh shit, I am in a really stupid position right now. She was like, yeah, I just want to know, like, how are you going to differentiate? Like, what are you going to do when you get this? Like, how are you going to know? I'm like, guys are calling me back in control. Some shit's going down. I gotta go. See ya. But that first spark of being confronted face to face, and I don't even think it was a confrontation of disbelief or calling me out on something. I think it was just a legitimate, this person wanted to know and asked a very good question, and all of a sudden I didn't know. So that really started messing with my brain for a while, and I had all this like, how do we know? And then all of a sudden, you start noticing you get the same stuff over the several years. You get the same sounds and EVPs. You get the same pictures. Well, all of a sudden, flipping through Facebook, I find this Facebook page called Worst Paranormal. And it was a Facebook group of people that were kind of where I was, and was not necessarily, well, they might have been a little rough at sometimes, but they were just really looking at pieces of things that people called evidence and tearing it apart and looking at it, sometimes critically, sometimes not so much. I know that it was kind of rough on that page sometimes, but my first thought when I saw that page was, there's people like me. There's people that are in this stage of going, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing what I think I'm doing. What I say I'm doing, I don't think I'm doing at all. So Worst Paranormal was actually the first kind of step of finding people that questioned, or at least had the same ideas as I did and where they were. And it was good. It was my first stage. From that very page, I came across someone on Three Tortured Souls that they liked. It was Mr. Kenny Biddle. He was very young.
Thanks.
So
thanks a lot.
Well, I mean, you've been doing it for a long time. I'm not saying you're not right now. Bullshit. We both got white beards, so it's over. It's not like we're going to hide it. But yeah, so that I went to his page. He was the next person on the list. Actually, it's one of the ways I met him. And I'll just say it was at the end of his angry phase, like you had said. So I'll just leave it at that. But it was good. So like I said, I don't know. Maybe someone knows who used to have that page. I don't know, but I give them a shout out because they at least gave me a group of people that were thinking the same way I was thinking, because I didn't know anybody else that was thinking the way I was thinking. If I tried to express myself, if I was trying to express myself, people would be like, what, are you stupid? This is how you ghost hunt. This is what you do. Haven't you seen taps? It's like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I don't know if I wasn't expressing my doubts or my concerns well enough, or if people just didn't want to hear it. But I couldn't find anybody to converse my ideas with, and Worst Paranormal was the first one. So they were good for me. So
cool.
I think I'll pass it to Kenny now.
Oh,
I'll just go this way.
I think I'm gonna. I think I'm going to start slow and talk about a few people that I've influenced, and then get to the bigger ones towards the end. So I totally got to give a shout out to my childhood heroes, Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
I mean, every day I would come home from school, the Scooby-Doo gang was there. They solved the mystery in 30 minutes or less. Better than Domino's. It was awesome. It was a good cartoon. It taught me to think critically, except I didn't listen at the time. I really didn't listen, and I'm only appreciating them more in my adult life, and looking back and thinking, wow, like they didn't give into it, except for Scooby and Shaggy. They didn't give into the fear or the beliefs and nonsense. They kept looking, and said, "There's got to be a reason. We have to find a cause." And they didn't stop till they found the actual cause, which was always Old Man Winners. So, awesome cartoon. Another person, Harry Houdini. Never got to meet him, and some people would think he was kind of harsh, especially in his later years, when he went after psychics. But reading his books, the books that he wrote himself, and getting a little insight into him and his personality and his way of thinking, the man just wanted to contact his mom. He's very close to his mother, and when his mother died, he was heartbroken, and he really wanted to try to find somebody that really could do this, could reach out to the other side. And unfortunately, he could never find somebody, and he found a lot of frauds, and that pissed him off. And I can totally relate to that, which was part of my angry phase that Tim mentioned. I was angry about that. So, but I take on a lot of his ideas and his directness. He was very direct with people. He didn't beat around the bush. He didn't, do the social thing where it's like, oh, well, let's just be nice to each other, and then we'll talk shit about each other when we leave. He was direct right to you, which I respect, and I like to follow that. There's also people like Mitch Silverstein. He was an influence on me over the years, and he's still a good friend of mine. We still hang out, but he was one of the few people, like, when I get together with him, he's a scientist. That's what he does all day. His job, he designs and builds test equipment for experimentation. And when I got together with him, he was able to teach me, like, this is how you take notes. This is what you should be putting into it. And then one of the things that I still do today is that when he filled out a page of notes, when it was done, he'd initial it and date it. And that was it. Nothing else was allowed on that page. And he'd flip it over, and every page in his notebook was like that. And I was like, that's a great idea. I'm totally stealing that, not knowing that a lot of people do that. And then there's other people like Sharon Hill. Sharon Hill is she used to do a
oh yeah,
what is it? Sciencey, sound sciencey. She did a lot of oh my god, what was the name of her? I forget the name of her website.
Creepy something geology.
Well, she has spooky geology now.
Yes, I love that.
But she had Doubtful News. I'm sorry,
yes,
doubtfulnews.com.
Yeah.
That's the website that I had gotten onto, and started reading it. And I was like, wow, this is another scientist that's dealing with fringe topics. And wow, like, they're giving real reasons. I can really look at this and say, wow, she's a badass. I like this. I like it a lot. And then of course I got to get all mushy and say one of the people that have influenced me along the way is my wife, because honestly, my angry phase dissipated because of her influence. Basically, like she started giving me hints like, maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to say that, or why don't you hit delete instead of send? And now I run stuff by her. My articles, if I feel that I'm a little bit too harsh, I sit down and say, hey, can you read this? I'm going to go to work. Can you read this today? And then let me know what you think. And she gives me an honest opinion. So that's helped me.
Damn it, Kenny.
What?
Now me and Dave are in trouble. I'd like to tell my wife you were on my
I
list.
believe I
so-
mentioned my wife right out of
Yes,
the opening
Kenny just
comments,
fucking
Tim.
started that shit, but you were definitely on my list.
Tim's the jackass of the group right now.
So that's I'm gonna wrap it up there. I mean, and then save my big ones for after we go around again. So, Dave.
Okay, I'll stick with that approach then. I'll go with some of the influencers and then work my way up to the mentors that spent a little more time and had more influence. But you started out with Scooby-Doo. Yeah, I would tend to agree. Scooby-Doo was great, big influence. Loved it as a kid. Very nice. But I would also list X-Files and Unsolved Mysteries. X-Files, because you always had almost the believer and scientists going back and forth and bouncing ideas off of each other. So I always liked that part of it. And then Unsolved Mysteries was just kind of fun, that there's a lot of things out there that just aren't solved, but they tried to look into them and figure out what was going on. It may have not have been the best show as far as reaching a conclusion on anything, but it still to me was influential. Then, as I mentioned before, of course, my dad, he was always very positive about it, I guess. Books, movies, stuff. He would, take me to see those as a younger kid. And I just really appreciate that, because a lot of family members, especially coming from a family that was Roman Catholic, they usually poo-poo that kind of stuff and tell you don't want to pursue that, stay away from that, don't do that. But he never did that. So I was pretty appreciative of that approach. So like Kenny, obviously my wife was a mentor, and I'm going to say she was a mentor, because when we first met, she was running her own group. And that's the one thing. I had the science part down. That was my training. I had the technology down. But as far as how to run a group, Jen was really good at that. She could work the situation within the group, get people to do things, raise money, and really get things done. So she kind of would have been my mentor in how to run a group, which once I joined her group and, we're married, and there was no need to run my own group, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from her during those times.
He got it by marriage.
Yeah. Oh no, I still tell that's your group. That's not my group. But yeah, it's just the two of us now. So yeah, it's pretty much just us. So a couple others, Richard Crowe, he was really a pretty famous ghost hunter and tour guide in the Chicagoland area. So that obviously influenced me to learn about local ghosts and hauntings and other paranormal phenomena. So always followed his work, and he actually came and gave a talk at Northern Illinois University when I was there as an undergraduate. I thought, oh, that was pretty cool to hear the guy I'd read about, and I think I'd been on a couple tours with him up to that point, but to have him come and give a talk, so that was pretty cool. Couple other quick ones before I turn it back to Tim. I would say the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. That's overseas, UK area. And to me, that website was pretty influential. And there's a number of individuals you can list. And one of them I'll talk about later, Dr. Jason Braithwaite, as a mentor as far as how to really look at magnetic fields and what it really means. And he changed my view, because I went from totally believing everything is a ghost to believing everything's due to magnetic fields. And he kind of set me straight and taught me how to really get into that and look at it. But I'll talk more about him later on. So the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, that was a big one. I think I'll stop there, because I got a couple other ones that are a little higher up, and then we get to the true mentors. So I'll stop there.
Okay. Well, I want to say that I love my wife. She's number one. I'm just going to go straight to the number one. And Selena, I love you. I'm going to drink you. I think John put it. She's putting up with us. Your wives must be heroines.
Dude, I just heard my wife laugh really loud downstairs. That's funny.
That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
My next person, I don't, a mentor, like I don't think I've had a mentor. Like again, I just kind of broke off and got lost in a different way of thinking until Worst Paranormal, like I was saying. But I want to say one of the people I think that was a mentor in the way I thought was I can't remember his first name, but his name was Dr. Sego. He was a doctor at my university that taught experimental psychology, and I had several classes with him. And he was an absolute crazy, wonderful individual. And he, if I remember correctly, and I could be getting this wrong, he was retired Navy. I love you too, and we love you too. And he smoked all the time, constantly, but he also played squash all the time. And if you walked out around the courts and at the school, you would see him smoking and playing squash. It was very strange, and he was very brash. He had a very good military type sound to him, but very, very caring professor, very, very good person. But one of the things that I really liked that he taught me was every time we'd set up like different types of experiments. We'd have to turn them in. He'd tell us what to do. One of the things that he would say was, "What does it mean?" And I would say, I know you. I've had you for a few classes. This is what it means. And he would say, and I quote, "That doesn't mean squat." And like he would circle everything and go back and do it again. And I just really love the way that if I couldn't explain what I was doing in a simple enough terms to put it on some paper so that he could understand what I was doing, then he wouldn't accept it. If I tried to bullshit and put down 10 pages what I was doing when it should have taken one, I would have still got the same. What you wrote doesn't mean squat. Go do it again. And I just love that phrase. I mean, there's really not any other places in my life I can use that would be appropriate in helping someone. If they asked me a question, I wouldn't say that doesn't mean squat. But I really liked how he did that. I liked that he would always say, he would ask me what it meant. What does it mean? Tell me what it means in very short terms. Tell me what you're doing in very short terms. Make it simple so that I can understand it, and then we can expand. Like, what's your goal? What are you measuring? What's your idea? And when I tell him, he'd said, that doesn't mean squat. And he had this raspy voice where he smoked since like before childhood, and probably in the womb he was smoking. But he was just great. He was great. And I can't do his voice, but you could just tell, and he would like get this look on his face, and you're like, fuck, I fucked up. And he would say, this doesn't mean squat. And he would just hand it back, and he would circle the whole page, and he goes, do it again. I appreciate that type of effort into simplifying the idea and questioning yourself and trying to break something down into something so simplistic that you can at least have an identification and convey to somebody else what your goal is. And then once you do that, you can then have a conversation. You can have a discourse. You can have someone else like look at your work and go, are you sure you want to do that? Or I don't think what you want to do is what you have on this piece of paper, which is where you learn, is where you get feedback, critical feedback. Because if I can't tell someone what I want to do in simple terms that they can understand and begin to question me, then what's the point? And I know that's kind of long-winded, but I do enjoy like coming up with the dumbest ideas for paranormal experiments. I just love that shit. I have no idea about how to do it, but I'm like, hey, we can turn this into an experiment. And they don't type the word psi back at me, but I can hear Kenny and Dave every time going, okay, what does he want to do this time? And it's just good. It's just to bounce ideas. So question everything, and understanding sometimes what you have because you like it doesn't mean it means anything just because you like it. Sometimes it just doesn't mean squat. So I want to give a shout out to Dr. Sego. He was really good in experimental psych.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's see. Back to Kenny.
Okay. So my first, one of my first mentors, more of a recent mentor, and his name is Mark Edward. He's a mentalist, and a professional mentalist, magician. And just I've met him. The first time I met him was at SciCon in Vegas, and we had attended. It was the first SciCon we went to. It was our main purpose was to actually go meet James Randi, who was another influence in my life, just a big influence. But it was one of those times where it's like, oh, Randy's going to be there. It was announced he was going to be there. I was like, oh, he's getting up there. You know, maybe we should try to get to an event, and so I can meet him. You know, before I can't meet him anymore. So we saved up money and we went to SciCon ourselves. And one of the workshops they had was psychic readings. And I was like, oh, you know, like that'd be cool. It said we get a handbook. I'm like, shit, I love books. So let's go. And it was by Ray Hyman and Mark Edward were the people giving this workshop. And after the workshop was done, they told us, you know, they taught us how to do some things, cold reading, hot reading, mostly cold reading. But I was able to talk to Mark afterwards, and we became friends on Facebook, social media. And every year that we've gone back, we've gotten together with him and his partner, Susan Gerbic. Like we went to Zach Bagans' museum. They went with me and Donna. And I think one of the years, the second year we were there, I was giving a workshop on solving mysteries or photography, and he was doing a workshop on psychic readings. And before the workshop, he actually took me aside and said, hey, you want to see how I do this? And I was like, shit, yeah, let's go. So I stuck with him for a few hours before his workshop. And it was just amazing to watch him work. He was like, oh, you come over to this crowd because everyone's in the lobby. Just go over. We'll start talking here in the corner, you and me. And we're having a conversation where he's telling me, listen to what they're saying, the people next to us. And he's writing down notes. And it's not like, it wasn't just a piece of paper that was like, you know, a nice piece of paper like this. It was a crumpled up piece of paper that he would start writing notes on. And I was like, what are you carrying that? Why are you taking that around? So we did this the whole night. And during his workshop, he went up, he's got a podium, and he's got this little piece of paper I noticed he takes out, he puts on the podium. And he starts doing readings in the middle of this. And there's probably 100 people in this room. And he starts getting these details. Amazing. And this is a skeptic conference, which is amazing. It's a skeptical conference. And people are in the crowd going, how the hell does he know that? How could he ever know that? And it was just because we walked around and we did pre-show work. And that's what he taught me, pre-show work. And from that moment, I was like, this is amazing. I'm sticking with you. And I had the pleasure over the years to actually accompany him to a private magician's meeting. There's a magic store in Vegas that had, like, when a magician wants to kind of sell his tricks to the next generation, they hold this special meeting. They close the shop and only magicians are allowed in there. And I was able to go with him. My wife and I were able to go with him, and we sat in it. I'm like, this is great. There's like 10 magicians in here and they're all doing tricks and stuff. I'm learning so much shit. This is so much fun. But he basically took me under his wing for this kind of stuff. And every time I have a question, I reach out to him and say, hey, what do you think of this? And he'll have a conversation with me. And that, when it comes to psychics and mediums, he has been a huge influence, a huge mentor to me, because I can run things by him. I can practice with him. You know, if I want to do cold readings on somebody, I can practice on him and he'll give me tips here and there. So awesome. It was really, really fun to nurture that relationship. And I still talk to him to this day. And it's great. So I'm really thankful that I had the chance to meet him and that we hit it off. And so there. That's my first big one. So, Dave.
All right.
I got that right.
Perfect. College professors, I'll call out to from my days, college, graduate school, Dr. Dan Griffiths and Dr. Arnold Hampel. They were both biologists, molecular biologists, but like Tim and Kenny, your friend Mitch, they kind of taught me how to really seriously apply the scientific method to pretty much anything in a lab setting, and then there's real world settings. But those two guys, you could tell they really cared about teaching people. So while it was school and academic work, it's still, to me, they were mentors in my development and thinking as far as how to be a scientist, how to be a biologist back in the day. So I just wanted to call those two out because they were probably the biggest, most influential ones I had through my academic career. And then moving into others, and I'll work my way up to probably my biggest influence. So I'll go with some, they're still important, but not quite as important until I get to the top of the list here. But Joey Caswell, he's now Dr. Joey Caswell, and he worked in Dr. Persinger's lab doing his PhD. And for me, he was a great mentor in taking that next step from, you're reading all the articles, you're collecting all the data, you've published a couple things in trade magazines. That's nice. But he was the one that helped basically mentor me on how to get things published in the more academic parapsychology journals. So he was a great help, really intelligent guy, and he knew statistics. He was a huge mentor for me. Even though I've taken a lot of statistics, that guy, man, it was unbelievable. You could ask him anything in statistics and he'd figure it out for you. So
Awesome.
a big shout out to Dr. Joey Caswell. And then, of course, Dr. Persinger, he was linked to him as well in his lab, and he was an influence as well. The guy, he's passed away a couple years ago, but the number of publications and the work he did in the field, there's quite a bit. So I'll list one more, and then I'll turn it back over to Tim. I would say Dr. Jason Braithwaite. He's a neuroscientist, but he used to work with that Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, and he developed the magnetic anomaly detection system, the MAD system, using the fluxgate magnometers. And he was the one who actually took me through, because I bought one of those things. I'm like, well, what this guy's doing is great. This is the type of information we need. But I couldn't figure out for the life of me how the fuck to get that thing to work and how to analyze that data. And here's a guy who's, busy. I think he was working on his postdoc. He's doing all this other research. And I sent him an email thinking that this guy ain't going to answer me. He's been published. He doesn't care about this dipshit in the US. So sent him an email, and right away he shot back. He's like, yeah, I'd be glad to help. Just give me a call anytime. So I was able to talk to him whenever, and he just guided me through everything I needed to know as far as getting that piece of equipment up and running and how to analyze it. And I still use a lot of that knowledge to analyze data today. The other thing with him, like I said in the opening, everything was a ghost. Then everything wasn't a ghost, and everything was due to magnetic fields. And a lot of the talks I had with him, and then of course the papers he published, that was a big influence in me kind of changing what I thought was due to magnetic fields. And was it really causing all this paranormal stuff, or maybe part of it, or we just don't know. So he was a big influence and a mentor to me, both on an equipment, data analysis, and an understanding of magnetic fields. So yeah, couple good folks there. So I'll stop there and turn it back over to Tim.
Statistics. I heard that. Oof.
I can't even say that word.
I like statistics so much. I took it twice in college. Wasn't because I had to, although I did, but yes, I really did enjoy it. Whew, boy, statistics.
They told you, you know what, Tim, come back next year.
They were like, Jesus,
they told him there's a 50% chance that you're going to 100% have to take this class again.
Yeah, they were like, just make a C. I'm like, what are my odds on that? They're like, yeah, you failed. Yeah, so after that, I guess after Worst Paranormal, like I said, I did find Kenny, who actually was someone I looked up to and watched and listened to. Ended up reaching out to him, which ended up on a radio show, but we won't talk about that. But that radio show is how I met Dave, which was really good. So even though that was a not so great part, but the results of it were really good.
I think we could all agree that particular person is the non-mentor kind of influence.
Yeah.
Is that how we're going to phrase it?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to learn to
Because
do right, do the opposite of that.
I don't remember. Dave, is that how we met?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So there you go. Non-mentor influence.
Yeah. So that turned out really good. But from there, I ended up, I don't know if it was from Kenny, but at some point just beginning to go down that rabbit hole of a different way of thinking about the paranormal. I ended up coming across Michael Shermer and enjoyed listening to his talks. It got me to the oh shit, no, I've forgotten, I didn't write it down. The website, the page.
I
What do
guess
you
I'll
write?
take that as a compliment.
I'm sorry, Tim.
Oh,
I'll take that as a compliment because Chevy Chase, one of my favorite comedy actors.
Awesome.
He's awesome.
you must fall out of the chair at some point tonight.
I will.
Okay.
More.
Yeah. So, Michael Shermer, that was good. And it just wasn't about paranormal, but it was just about it was a different way of thinking about things. And I enjoyed that. And from there, believe it or not, I know I ran into Ben Radford, and his books really started. Ben's probably was the one that, if all these other people had some influence on me at a different way of thinking, Ben's books were probably one of the first that got me. Was kind of, I guess, like how the rubber meets the road, for lack of a better word. It was practical. Yeah. The books were practical. It was like, you want to do it this way. And I enjoyed that. And it was really good. Really enjoyed reading his books. Got to meet him thanks to Kenny. Not in person, but at least on a podcast. That's a great podcast, I hear. Three Tortured Souls. Look it up.
About that.
Yeah, people love us apparently when we're drunk. And then Stephen Novella, which was another great writer. I enjoyed his work. His took a lot of effort to read because he's very scientifically literate. So his work was a lot of highlighting and looking up stuff. But I enjoyed that, and I don't mind admitting that. It doesn't bother me at all that I didn't. It took some of his readings in his papers, in his published papers. It took a lot of times to look up definitions. And yeah, I'll give it to Kenny.
That was like all of a sudden he cut off. I'm like,
And
I'm getting lost in. I'm trying to follow I'm really getting really good buzz. I'm trying to follow the fucking chat as well.
Don't
Chevy
worry.
Chase really kind of got me cracked up.
It distracted me too. All right. So, I mean, a few other people. Susan Gerbic is a friend of mine, and that is actually Mark Edwards' partner. But Susan, she has a drive. So she does a lot of work. She's a member. She founded the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, like adding more information to Wikipedia pages, because Wikipedia is Wikipedia. It needs help. But she also does a lot of skeptical activist kind of things. And honestly, her drive is like a Red Bull on cocaine. That's how much drive that she has. She's constantly working, and that kind of inspires me because she's always working. And I can relate to that because I go to my normal day job, and I mean, I come home and I do this kind of work whenever I can. In the morning, I'm typing away, trying to get stuff done before work. But her drive, and especially when she latches on to I always kind of think of Star Wars, and with the original Star Wars, when they're doing the trench run, and you hear the red leaders like, stay on target. That's her in a nutshell. When she gets somebody in her sights, she does research the shit out of somebody, and it's good research. It's not, just let me just take them down because I don't like them. If something turns out to be not true, she gives you that information too. So I like that about it. And I've had a chance to work with her a few times over the years on different projects, different sting operations where I've gone undercover at psychic shows, which is a lot of fun. But her drive is just amazing, and I love it. And it just keeps me, every time I'm kind of like down and burned out, I sit down, and Tim and I were talking about this before the show. Like, I'll take a day where I just come home from work and I crash on the couch. Like, I'm done. Leave me alone. Just let me go. And the next morning I'm like, well, you know what? Susan's probably doing shit. I'm going to get up and do shit now. Let's just get it done. And that gets me up and going. But there's other, like, I want to touch on like little like shotgun people that have influenced me. And this might surprise people. Lloyd Arabeck. I've become friends with him over the last year or so. And I was surprised to know that he uses some of my work in his classes. And we did a course together last year. And it really got me to know him better. And before that, I only knew him from his books. A couple of books that I have on my shelf here that I've read. And I actually told him this. I didn't have a high opinion of him beforehand, but getting to know him and understanding his behavior and thought process helped me relate to him more. And I think that's the best lesson that I've gotten out of from him and from other people like that, is that don't judge them by a few things. Actually talk to people, get to know them first. I get that a lot. People hate me without even meeting me.
What?
And that's
You?
I know.
Who could possibly?
Who would do that? Bastards. But just get to know someone. If you don't like them just because of somebody else had a bad experience, try it yourself. But yeah, Susan's been really, really she's like the Energizer bunny on like a case of Red Bull all the time. I mean, she's constantly moving, and I really like that. I really like that constant drive to get stuff done. And that's what I want to do. I want to do this, constantly. And then I think I'm gonna stop there and save it for the next round, because the last two mentors I have are the big ones, and I'm gonna put them together. So I'll pass it up to Dave.
Okay. All right. So one of them, this is a great book. If you haven't read it, you haven't seen it, Hauntings and Poltergeists, Multidisciplinary Perspectives, and James Herron. I've never met him. I talked to him on the phone, I think briefly one time, but I've been following his work for a really long time. And I think he would be considered a mentor, just simply because of the work he's done and the influence it's had on me. So by far, that's one of the first people I would recommend if you want to read a truly academic study of ghosts, hauntings, and how people perceive things, why, contextual cues, and some of the recent work he's doing now with trying to develop question sets and ways to collect information and data to better the field. He's really good at what he does. So that's one of the big ones for me. The other one, Dr. Carolyn Watt from the University of Edinburgh. I took her online parapsychology class. Oh boy, that had to be, that's more, what, about 10 or more? No, it had to be 15 or so years ago. One of the first ones she ever had, where they offered it up online. What's that?
You're old.
I am old. You're almost as old as me now, so you might want to shut the fuck up. You gray-haired old motherfucker.
Between the three of us, we have like 300 years of experience in the
Yes, we do. So Dr. Carolyn Watt, her class was fantastic. She was a great mentor while you're taking the class. And, if you ever have questions and need to reach out to her, she's pretty accessible and always gets back to you. So she was a big influence for me as far as advancing my academic parapsychology knowledge and how to think at things, and really helping me see how parapsychology actually is scientific. Some of the ghost hunting groups, that type of thing, yeah, that it's more pseudoscience, but you can approach any field with science and the scientific method, and that's what I really appreciated about her class. And she brought in people that agreed with her, people that didn't agree with her or agree with the field. She was very open about having a full look from various perspectives and teaching from that standpoint. So I really enjoyed that class, and she would be considered a mentor for me. And then
I actually just I spoke with her a couple of
oh,
weeks
did
ago.
you? Oh, that's right.
Um,
You were following up on somebody
I
who
was
said they
following
went
up on
there.
something, yeah, with one of my articles, and reached out
Mhm.
to her, and I mean, she was like
Yeah.
within a day, she was back and gave me a great response, and she was really nice. So awesome person.
Yeah, yeah, she's really good. The last one I'll mention right now before I throw it back to Tim is Dr. Alan Botkin, psychotherapist in Northeast Illinois, and he is the founder of the Induced After Death Communication, which is a treatment for PTSD. And he never really thought anything paranormal was going on. And even to this day, if you ask him, do you think there's something truly paranormal? He kind of dodges it a little bit, but that's okay because he's, a therapist and he's rooted in medicine and science. But did a couple projects with him. Jen and I still meet him and his wife for dinner every once in a while. And he's just a great guy to bounce ideas off of, both paranormal and non-paranormal. And then he's well connected within near-death experience community and afterlife communication community. And he brings a really nice perspective. And he's just a laid-back, good guy. And I think one of the things I learned is from him is, it doesn't do you any good to get angry and bitch and moan at people and just be nasty about it. But it's good to sit back and listen to everything and just kind of take it in. And you don't always have to, argue with people. You can take their point of view, accept it, and move on. So to me, he's been a good influence on, how to work both in science, medicine, and the paranormal. He's a little more outspoken these days about maybe uh, where he's at with his thoughts on induced after death communication, because he would have experiences as he's doing these sessions, and then other things would happen that might be unexplainable, but then he quickly was able to pivot and design some sort of test to see if it really was what he thought it was. So good influence, super nice guy. And did you put something up from somebody? Oh, would he come on Paranormal Brew? Yeah, I think he probably would. I can reach out and find out. Yeah, he's just a super nice guy and he loves to talk about the work he's done. So all right, that's it for me at the moment. I got a couple more, but we'll save those for the last round of big influencers.
All right. Well, I will finish up. I guess I'll lump all mine together here because we're coming up on the hour. But James Randi was in there right at the top. Richard Feynman, believe it or not. He's a lot of fun to read. And probably the best one is Carl Sagan, especially with the Demon Haunted World. I really enjoyed that book. That's probably the book I've read the most over and over several times. Really good book. Really helped me change going back to just change the way I think, not the way what results I expect. Yeah, that's it. I love it. I have it on digital and I have a hardback too. Love those. James Randi really did. I came across him with the $1 Million Challenge. I believe it was a $1 Million Challenge. He's really good. He can explain things very easily. And at least for me, Richard, when I've read his books, he's really careful and very good at breaking things down so that even I can understand them, which is very nice. And they're very hard to understand topics. It's not like I read his books and now I'm a particle physicist. That's not true. It's just I have a better idea, and he really did a good job breaking stuff down so that I can understand it. That's why I like reading him so well. But Carl Sagan's great. It helped me start beginning to understand that if I don't understand something, it's not because what I'm trying to understand is doing something wrong. It's because I'm the fault. I'm at fault. If I'm not getting the results I think I should, or something's not, if I'm not learning, it's not what I'm studying's fault. I mean, this sounds stupid, but I hope it understands, like, everything is about, I have to change the way I address things. I have to change the way that I measure things. I have to change my methods. I have to change what I need to do to understand something. And I like that. It was all about internal and not external things to change. And oddly enough, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I ran across a video a long time ago called Quantum Physics Woo. And the person in that, it's from 60 Symbols, is the YouTube channel. And the guy's name is Professor Phil Moriarty, which the name already, if you're not Dr. Who,
yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
that really
cool.
He is a physicist, particle physicist, or a quantum physicist. And the video that I watched was him really explaining. I think we've even talked about it a little bit. I can't remember the other person. He's a biologist, and he talked about. He's a very brilliant biologist, doctor, surgeon, even, I think. Lard, something. And he made a statement publicly about there being consciousness after death because of something, and he referenced quantum physics. And so this Professor Phil Moriarty, awesome name, jumped right on it and explained why. I know he is brilliant. The guy that he was critiquing is brilliant, is smart, obviously, but he's outside the scope of his field. But he is really a lot of fun. I ended up just going down the rabbit hole of quantum physics. Loved it. Tried to put my toes in the water to see if I could do it. Pulled the fucking toes right back out because I am not that smart. Real fast. But I have a nice understanding of what is going on because of him, and the love of that because of that very first video. Who remembers for our house cleaning skills? Quantum physics to house cleaning. Well, you know what? If you don't look at the dirt, it is both clean and dirt until you measure it. So
it's Schrodinger's dirt.
That's right. My house is Schrodinger's dirt. So as far as you know, it's clean or dirty. So, yeah. So one of the things, though, even though I really considered looking at, doing something with quantum mechanics. I really did. I thought I was going to do. Kenny and I both started classes.
Thanks for dragging me into this.
Sure, man. we both got through like the first lesson. We were like, fuck yeah, this is easy. And then the second lesson was like, oh, here's the math for what you just did. And we were like, nope.
Done.
But the lesson that I took from that was when I hear people that are not educated in physics or quantum physics, and they try to use quantum physics statements to justify their opinion on something, I have an understanding of how difficult that shit is, like how crazy that stuff is and how beautiful quantum physics is. And it's not so easy as just taking something that you like, sticking it onto something that you think will fit, and making a claim for it. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't work with a quantum physicist to come together with this idea. It's just typically it was during that same time you would hear the energy, you know how it goes. You can't be destroyed or created, so it has to go somewhere. So therefore it must be a ghost. And we're like, no, it doesn't. Quit fucking stating that shit. That's bothersome.
Tim's feeling good when he's like the fourth F-bomb in one show.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep drinking. I'll be cussing up a storm. Anyway, so that was really good. I really enjoyed it. I certainly wish I could understand more. I think maybe if I was younger and had more time to commit to mathematics, I could understand it better. But I still enjoy reading it. Richard Feynman. I'm not going to be an expert at any field whatsoever, any capacity, but I do like the thoughts and learning about it. So again, the takeaway was, I can't tell someone if they're wrong if they try to use quantum mechanics or quantum physics to explain something. I can't, because I don't know. But I can also know enough that if they're using that, it's going to send up a red flag unless they can tell me who's like, where did you get this from? Like, did you do the research? Because if you did, I hope you have many years in physics practice. Otherwise, let me know where you got this from so then I can read the paper as well and look at the published report and see what it looks like. And then I can reach out to somebody and ask them their opinion on that paper. But if they can't, then I know that it's a red flag for what they're trying to sell. So that kind of sums it up for me. Of course, my wife is always number one. Always.
Ass kisser.
Okay. So, Kenny.
Oh, all right.
Oh. I've mentioned it in passing, but both of you guys are also a big influence on me. I'm not going to lie. Love fighting with you guys. Love agreeing with you guys. Love calling y'all a bunch of assholes and killing my great fucking ideas when I just knew that they were going to be brilliant and make us a lot of money. Fuck.
I love Drunk Tim.
I'm like, look at this idea. I just fucking thought of it all by myself. And Dave's like, here's 20 papers from 80 years ago, bitch. It's not even new. I'm like, God damn it.
Nice try, bitches.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So the last two are probably my biggest influences over the years about how I investigate, why I investigate, and the approach, the behavior that I have. Because again, when I started out, I was a total believer. I was a ghost hunter. Well, first I was a big believer. I believed everything. And then I was a ghost hunter for a long time. Certain things happened and I started questioning, and I found material from other people, these two people, in fact. And one is Ben Radford and one is Joe Nickel. And these guys, mostly through their writing, really have influenced me. And realizing that, no, you don't have to be a dick to be a skeptic. You can just look at the facts, look at what's available, and determine what's assumption versus what's really there, what we really know, what can we document, as opposed to what we believe or what we think happened. And just over the years, reading their books, reading mostly because I started out reading their articles in Skeptical Inquirer, and that was my first like big connection with them. And I had written a book, a self-published book, which is no longer available, but it was called Orbs of Dust. And it was my take on photography and explaining a whole bunch of anomalies, ghostly anomalies, and how people get them. And a friend of mine, Tanya Kaiser, had taken her book and sent it to Ben Radford. And he got in touch with me and said, it's great. I can't review it for the magazine because it's not like legitimately published. Because I mean, we printed them on a printer at someone's work and then got home, stapled them together and sold them at conferences. So, but he loved it. He thought it was really great. And he keeps bugging me even to this day to rewrite it and put it out there as a real book. But over the years, we got to be friends, me and Ben, and he's now my editor because I pretty much came full circle. I now write for Skeptical Inquirer, which is the magazine that really influenced me on my more skeptical nature. And so now I'm there and he is my editor, which is great. But I bounce ideas off him. I can call him anytime. And when you talk about busy, like I know I get a lot of projects. I take a lot of projects on more than I can handle. He's much busier than I am. He's almost like a Susan Gerbic. He's so busy. But when I call, he either answers or he calls me back right away or texts right away and says, hey, I'm in a meeting or I'm doing something. Give me like 10 minutes or so. And he calls me back and he'll stay on the phone with me if I have a problem. And that's really great. That I've learned so much about him, about how to approach people, how to if I have something and I'm not sure about it, whether or not to include it in an article, whether or not to print it, if I can print it. A lot of stuff has influenced me. and the questions that he's asked over the years. And I mean, these books. So somebody did notice earlier that I had a stack of books. So these are the books I have from Ben, and there's quite a few, and it's all about investigating. And I mean, this one is awesome because it's the definitive guide on the Chupacabra legend. I'm sorry, the Chupacabra legend. And he actually solved this case, which is amazing. I love it. And I mean, this is a transition. This is actually by Nichol and Radford. So they collaborated, which leads me into Joe Nichol, because from Ben's work and working with him, it led me to Joe. And Joe has been pretty much like a grandfather to me. Like, he's the grandfather that I did have a grandfather who used to tell me stories, and unfortunately he passed away when I was young. Joe has filled that spot. Joe has learned and probably forgotten more than I know now. The man has been a magician. He's been a forensic interviewer, not an interviewer, a forensic analyst. He's fingerprint analyst. He's done so much shit. And every time I get to hang out with him, he tells me stories. And he tells me stories of his investigations and some of the best advice he's ever given me. And I mean, if you know Joe Nichol, if you've read his stuff, he's diehard skeptic. But he's always taught me, don't assume. If someone brings you a case, don't assume that it's false. Don't assume that it's not real. Take the time and investigate it, because you might be wrong. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that's great advice, you know, because sometimes I do dismiss. I have dismissed people in the past and their stories. And then I go back and look, and I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I really shouldn't have done that. I should have heard them out. So, and I've gotten to know Joe a lot better over the years. I've gone up to visit him and work with him. We've worked on several projects together, and same with Ben. We've worked on different things together, and it's nice that these people that you grow up looking up to, that you can finally work with them and even come to the point, and this might sound weird, but you get to the point where you disagree with them on some topics, and it's not clashing. It's, hey, you have this idea. I think I had this idea, and I'm confident enough because of their teaching to disagree with them directly with them. And we talk about it and we work it out. And it's reassuring and comforting. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's awesome because I feel like I'm finally with my mentors. I'm with them. I can run with them. I can kind of keep up with them, but they still pull out fucking tricks and show me up sometimes, which is nice. It's really nice. But they've had a major impact on me. And again, I don't agree with everything that they've done, but for the most part, yeah, they've pretty much shaped how I investigate and how I approach things. So those are my two big ones. So I'll throw it back up to Dave.
All right. And Kenny already mentioned this person, and I think I've talked about this person before in some of our origin stories that we've discussed, but Lloyd Auerbach, obviously, and came across this book of his. I think it was 1986, ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists, Parapsychologist Handbook. And that was the first time I realized that there's people that actually go to school and do serious work in this field. So I read that book with a lot of interest. And then, let's see, I won't give any years because Kenny's just going to rip on me for being old again. But a while back when we used to have paranormal conferences, I got the chance to meet Lloyd in person, spend some time with him. Super knowledgeable guy, very well spoken, and he can pretty much speak to any topic in the field in parapsychology. So you can tell he loves the field. And the one thing I've noticed lately that I really, really like, and he said this before, is he just doesn't fall into line with the ghost hunting and TV shows. And Kenny probably knows that, teaching the class with him. And there's even been times where, he'll tell the story he's been to conferences and they want him to go and conduct a ghost hunt or do something similar to what they do on the TV shows. And he just outright refuses to do it.
Yep.
So he was a huge influence on me and a mentor. And I took his class, a couple of his classes when he was teaching through the HCH Institute out west. He was teaching his parapsychology classes, and I think I took almost all of them. And it was great. You always had time to talk to him, ask questions. He was just a really personable person. I really enjoyed talking to him. So Kenny, I think you said, you know, you didn't care for him much before you met him.
Right.
And you know, that happens. And who was it? Abraham Lincoln, I think, once said, you know, I don't like that person. I must get to know them better. So
Yeah.
something along those lines. But yeah, he's been a huge influence on me, obviously, with my interest and background and really staying up to date with parapsychology. So for me, he's probably the biggest one. And then I'll just finish up with a couple recent people that I would consider mentors, and they will be Dr. Cal Cooper. I read a lot of his material, try to stay in touch with him. Jen and I interviewed him on our side chat show one time. Super nice guy, super smart, academic in the field of parapsychology. Again, really good. There was a young student, an undergrad up in Canada, that was looking for some advice on how to seriously study and get into the academic field of parapsychology. And I just asked him if he would talk to her, and he's like, yeah, sure. So he's really good at guiding people, and the information, the research he does is great. And then two people I'm currently working with, Brandon Masulo and Shane Feek. Brandon, having parapsychology training, formal training, really smart, sharp guy, working on a bunch of projects right now. And his ability to take something that he wants to experiment with and just make it happen, that really speaks a lot to me as a field scientist, that he's able to do that type of stuff. And then Shane Feek, he's really good at programming and data logging. So I thought I knew a lot about that stuff until I started talking to that guy. I'm like, oh Jesus, I don't know shit. I mean, I know how to collect it and analyze it, but as far as getting your sensors on a board and custom creating things and programming, the guy's brilliant. So I'm hoping that that'll continue. So that's it for me.
Awesome.
Well, that was fun. You know, this could be a part two. Like every time you said Joe Nickel, I was like, I can't believe I didn't. He was another person that came right along with the same time with Ben Radford and Steve Novella. Same time, sometime. I can't believe I forgot him. Anyway.
You know what? I mean, there's people that influence us, and I mentioned in the beginning. I mean, there's so many. And you guys also touched on this. There's so many people. We constantly learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lloyd Auerbach for me is a great example. Like, like I said, I didn't care too much for him when I just read his books, because he works with several psychics. I mean, I didn't read all of his books. I think there's only two that I read. And I was like, you know, it's not for me. But then I got to talk to him, and in that conversation, in several conversations, I realized, like, he doesn't believe all psychics. He doesn't believe everything that comes his way. And some of the stories, like you mentioned, Dave, I mean, some of the stories that he tells, it's like, wow, I didn't know this. This is not in the books that I read. I've not known this about you. So getting to know someone is really important, because you realize, okay, they don't believe everything, or they don't have these opinions that other people said they had.
Right.
So it's definitely important to actually go to the direct, and we've said this before, go to the source, no matter what. Whether it's a magazine, a book, a newspaper, a TV show, or a person, go to the source. So yeah, really great guy. I love Lloyd. He's so much fun to talk to and hang out with, and yeah, I look forward to working with him in the future.
I want to I had a moment of I want to say
Epiphany?
Clarity. Yes, thank you. Epiphany might be better. So if you would, when the influence that Ben had on me through his reading, when I tried to explain it, it's kind of like reading his books helped me figure out like how the rubber hits the road, like the actual what do you do. If you would pull your books around, you had picked out his books that were just on investigating.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, that book right there, great. Yep. That was one of the first ones. The next one that you have, yep, that was a good one. So, do you remember when we just reviewed a book about scientific paranormal investigating, and there were like 30 pages on how to do it, and you really didn't look like that's the difference. That's the difference, right? There are books to be written about it, not just 30 pages of it, which is what was very frustrating. But I think that was it's a very nice comparison of how much there is to learn, and it's not so easy as just writing a book and putting 30 pages together of what you should and shouldn't do.
So as a general example, you're touching on something that's really good. So Ben's first book, and other people have done this. I don't want to just single out Ben as like the only one that's done this. But so this book came out first, Scientific Paranormal Investigation, and it covers investigating different things. You can see Loch Ness, Bigfoot, the Brown Lady, Raymond Hall, crop circles. And this is a general guideline for investigating mysteries. And then he translated that into a book just about investigating ghosts.
Yep.
Which, same thickness. All right. So he expanded upon it. And I mean, this is a lot when you're talking 312 pages of what he does. And yes, there are some cases in there that explain what goes on. And that compares to what the book that we reviewed. But instead of 30 pages of kind of investigating, I'm not going to say it's actually telling you how to investigate, because it wasn't.
It was not.
This spends a hell of a lot more on actually breaking down how to research things and some rules. There's steps that you take and different categories, so much more. And it may not be for everyone, but I do recommend you pick it up, because it has influenced how I investigate. And I have taken it a couple steps further beyond what's in there, but that's just because of experience.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I saw John had a question, and he brought up two people. Yeah, I read Neil deGrasse Tyson. Obviously, we went on a cruise several years ago, and I took two of his books with me. And I remember my wife, who is number one on this list, was going, "Why are you bringing books to a cruise?" And I was like, you relax your way. I'm going to sit on the back of a huge ship and watch the world disappear and read. And I picked two of his books. I can't remember which two they were. And Brian Cox is just fantastic. I can't say I've read anything, but I do enjoy watching any video that I can get a hold of. It's good. He is another person that's very, when I say this, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but he can put things simplistically to help me understand what's going on. And I appreciate that. I also don't fall under an assumption because it was described to me simplistically that the concept is simplistic. It's nice to have a grasp of what's going on, and people that can do that, I think, have a special skill, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox too. Yeah.
Neil has a really good way of he kind of follows in the approach or behavior of Carl Sagan, where he tries to bring it to you in common terms, which I like. I like when you bring it down to that level, because then I can understand it better. Brian Cox also, I know I have a couple of his books. I just don't see them because I'm starting to get buzzed. But I've also seen a lot of his video.
I'm way ahead of you. I am like winning.
I know you are. But very good at breaking down the science and helping you understand it. So love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yep, definitely a fan. As far as influences on science, yeah, absolutely. Within the field of the paranormal, parapsychology, yeah, as far as how it would shape your thought process and how to think about things logically and scientifically, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
All right. Any final thoughts? Are you ready?
Sure. Yeah, we're ready. I don't
Any
see any
last
other
people?
questions, so
Yeah,
we're good. We're good to go.
All right. Well, I will stop. Hey, Tom. I see Poppy's popping in to say hi. My final thoughts, I would just kind of like to say the idea, this was really a fun topic that you came up with. Like there was just some things going on I had to take care of. So we wanted to kind of take a nice, easy topic. And this was a lot of fun. This was one that you can just kind of wing and go with the flow and talk about people that you have run into and have had influences on you. So it was very good. But I like the idea of the concept of this is everybody you meet, you can learn something from. And it's really good. I like the idea that I'm going to die not fully educated. And if that makes sense, like you will never reach a point where you know everything that there is to know, even probably about a specific subject. So it's, having that concept that you're, never going to know everything. It's nice and it's comforting, I guess, in a way, but you're going to meet somebody that's going to know something more about what you want to learn, and take it, learn it, thank them for it. And then if you run into somebody that's interested in the same thing, guide them to that person and let them learn as well. And I like this. The concept is really good, and I do appreciate it. It was fun.
Cool. Who's next?
You are. Somebody said I
George,
saw
man.
Ghost Ship was fucking amazing. We're like, what? That? I'm like a squirrel. I just go straight to
Oh
it.
my God.
Thanks,
All right.
John.
So
Got me.
yeah, I'm gonna piggyback right off of what you're saying there and just say that we never stop evolving. We never stop learning, and that's it. That's my mantra. That's my catchphrase, whatever. But we never stop evolving because we continue to meet people that have an influence on us. We continue to have those aha moments where it's like, oh shit, I never thought of that. That's a good idea, and we keep growing from that. We learn what to do or what not to do. And we gave one example kind of tonight, like of someone that was an influencer, but influenced us on what not to do, not how to approach things. And that's important too. It's not just dismiss it, but we get to see examples of, all right, I'm going to stay away from that. I don't like that approach. I don't like that behavior. I don't like that, idea. I'm going to leave that alone. And but we can keep learning, and I continue to do that. I mean, we meet people through this show. We meet them, we talk to them outside of this show, and we get to have discussions and learn things and realize, okay, they have tricks that I didn't know, and I can use that. It'll help me better. And I love that. I love that open-ended idea. And it really, like, Tim, you kind of touched on it, like you like the idea that you're going to die eventually, not knowing everything.
Yeah.
And you said that, and I think, and I don't know the commercial, but I remember there was a commercial sometime, and everyone in the chat room, if you remember this, pipe up. But there was a commercial where a guy was like, he's on the internet. He's like, I'm done. And his girlfriend's like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm done the internet. I did all the internet. And he's done. And that's what popped into my head. I'm like, if you get to a point where you know everything, what's the point? Then you kind of just, everything. And I don't ever want to get there. I don't. I want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to get up tonight and I'm going to learn something. I'm going to do this show with you guys every Saturday night, and I'm going to learn something every Saturday night.
Yeah.
Because you guys take an approach different than what I do, and I'm going to learn something from you guys. So love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, don't stop evolving. Don't stop learning. Keep going. And be happy.
Yeah.
And my wife's number one on my list.
Oh my God.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I agree with everything you both said, and this was a good topic. It was interesting because I first sat down, I'm like, oh, maybe there's 2 or 3 names. And then when I started thinking about it, it got longer and longer and longer. And the more I kind of reflected on it, I'm like, boy, there's been mentors, influencers, even, college professors that you realize shape the way you think and how you go about things. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was actually a little surprised with the number of names that ended up on my list. And for whatever reason, Taryn wants me to say Dr. Rosenpenis. I don't know why. From Fletch. From Fletch. So there you go. Shout out. Holy shit, where's the Tylenol? And with that, I'm done.
Aw.
Wow, that was short and sweet. That was good. Dave's like, yep, drop the mic.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys. Before we close, I'll start with Dave. Do you have anything coming up? Anything going on?
Just this podcast I do on Saturday nights with Tim Vickers and Kenny Biddle called Three Tortured Souls.
Heard it's okay. Pretty average, but
It's all
I
right.
heard it's good. Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. It's good.
Kenny?
It's worth a few drinks.
It is.
So yeah, a couple announcements. I do. Next week there will be no show.
That's right.
Two of us are not available next week, so we're gonna skip a week. You're gonna have to find something else to do on your Saturday night. I don't know whether that means curl up on the couch and cry because we're not here, which is okay, or get yourself a book.
Tears of joy.
Get yourself a book.
I like the idea of there's some discussion going on about what movie to watch next. Maybe they could come up.
There you go. Yeah,
If there's a way to think of a movie to watch next.
we did have fun. I mean, the last one we did, the Stone Tape on Thursday,
good.
that was
God,
fun.
was
That was-
the acting. I don't know how it didn't take the Oscars, like sweeping all of it. It's amazing.
Oh my god, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was good. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna plan our third 3TS movie night kind of thing. But yeah, we'll decide on what movie to watch and we'll see what happens with people. But that's always going to be during the week. It's not going to take over a regular show because of the private viewing. Because if movies, you can't just show publicly. So that's why it's a private viewing. Besides that, though, let's see. March 17th, I'm going to be on the Skeptical Inquirers podcast called Skeptical Inquirer Presents with Jim Underdown. We're
Nice.
going to do a show where we interview each other. So Jim Underdown runs the CFIIG, which offers the $250,000 paranormal challenge. And then he also CFI, the company that I work for part-time. He does the California-based section for that. So we're going to get on and interview each other. It should be fun. And then what else do I got? Next weekend I'll be at I got a secret location, or I'm going to do a ghost hunt. I can't tell you where though. It's a famous place. We'll see what happens. And then from that, let's see what else I got. I got other things. May, June. So June, I'll be in Vegas for a weekend. I can't tell you what for. And then July 16th, I'll be a speaker for Skeptical, which is
Skeptic Cow.
Skeptical. Because it's
Okay.
a California-based skeptics group. They have a conference, an online. Well, they usually have an in-person conference, but an online conference this year. It's 16th and 17th of July, and I'll be speaking. I'll be talking about my transition from ghost hunter to skeptical guy, and my kind of journey through there because they want to learn about that. And then July 23rd is the Para-Unity Conference in Woodbridge, New Jersey. I'll be there, set up with my Skeptical Help booth. August 19th to 21st is Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, where these two motherfuckers should be with me. And we'll have our Three Tortured Souls table at the bash. So come on out and hang out with us. And
Yes, please.
bring us alcohol. If you bring rum, I'm your friend. I'm just going to put that out there. And that's all the announcements I have right now.
All right. If you bring
alcohol.
coffee, I'll definitely be your friend. I'll probably wash your car even if it's all right. Well, for
That's
good
how
coffee.
we raise money for the show. Tim washes cars.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. I hope everybody's out of the storm now that just went through. It was pretty brutal today, at least here. Hope everybody's safe. Have a great rest of the weekend. And I don't know who's up after the next weekend, but you got 2 good weeks for a topic.
Yeah.
I think I am. So
Ooh.
I'll come up with a good topic. Maybe I'll
All
give it to you tomorrow. Save you a full 2 weeks to work on it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
That'll
that'd be the record.
No excuses.
Wow. I'll still come up with nothing. I'll be like, I didn't do anything.
You were a last minute guy in school, weren't you, Kenny?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I
We
got a
still-
report due in 2 hours. I
Yeah,
gotta
I
do
was
it now.
going to say, you can give us the topic tomorrow for 2 weeks, but we'll still only start reaching it Saturday morning.
And the worst
Like,
part
ah,
is Saturday morning, they're going to both be like, what was the topic?
Yeah.
All right.
I
All right.
appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of the week.
All right.
See
Take
you
care,
later.
everybody.
Bye.